A lot has been made about the lack of transparency by China and the World Health Organization in terms of reporting the pandemic. But as the United States has emerged as the epicenter of the outbreak, with some of the highest death rates per population, the emphasis of the U.S. government has been on shifting the blame towards China. And every day there seems to be a new conspiracy theory. Did the virus escape from a lab? Is it a bioweapon? Well, let's look at what we know and who said what and when. The United States now has over 1 million cases and ranks as one of the highest countries in deaths per capita. According to Statista, the U.S. ranks 9th in terms of testing. There are long lines for food by those who are suffering economically, and that's likely due to a record high rate of unemployment. Some states have been relaxing restrictions and opening businesses, even as their number of cases is still rising. With projected deaths to reach 3,000 a day by June 1st, the United States needs a scapegoat and a distraction from the embarrassing reality of its failure in preparing for and combating the pandemic. As an example of the distraction tactic, let's start with this clip from ABC's This Week from Sunday, May 3rd, with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
The Chinese Communist Party had the opportunity to prevent all of the calamity that has befallen the world. And here we find ourselves today. You and I were talking about we haven't seen each other physically for a long time. That's true of people all across the world. This is an enormous crisis created by the fact that the Chinese Communist Party reverted to form, reverted to the kinds of disinformation, the kinds of concealment that authoritarian regimes do. Had those scientists been operating in America, they would have put this out, there would have been an exchange of ideas, and we would have quickly identified the kinds of things that needed to be done in response. Instead, China behaved like authoritarian regimes do, attempted to conceal and hide and confuse. It employed the World Health Organization as a tool to do the same. These are the kind of things that have now presented this enormous crisis, an enormous loss of life, and tremendous economic cost.
So claim number one, we weren't told early enough. And if we'd only had our own scientists on the ground in China, this wouldn't have been a problem. Well, according to this Washington Post article from mid-April, more than a dozen U.S. researchers, physicians, and public health experts, many of them from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, were working full-time at the Geneva headquarters of the World Health Organization as the novel coronavirus emerged late last year and transmitted real-time information about its discovery and spread in China to the Trump administration, according to U.S. and international officials. Senior Trump-appointed health officials also consulted regularly at the highest levels with the W.H.O. as the crisis unfolded, the officials said. Now, much has been made about the WHO's late response to the outbreak, with accusations of favoritism to China. I made a video about it myself. But a lot was taken from this WHO timeline. Well, it turns out the WHO, in fact, announced the new coronavirus could spread worldwide on January 14th. And according to the CDC's website, on January 7th, Chinese health officials confirmed that a novel coronavirus was associated with an initial cluster of illness. And here is a press briefing from March 19th, with Mike Pompeo standing in the background. When the question of when the U.S. knew about the pandemic was asked, Secretary of Health and Human Services Alex Azar admits that the U.S. had been alerted on January 3rd.
The news hours learned that the CDC picked up that there was some sort of virus happening in Wuhan, the coronavirus happening in Wuhan as early as December. When did the CDC start letting other agencies know that there was something in China happening, that this coronavirus was happening? And then when did the whole government approach start to happen?
So I'll let the CDC or Dr. Fauci, you want to talk to that? Dr. Secretary Azar, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were alerted by some discussions that Dr. Redfield, the director of the CDC, had with Chinese colleagues on January 3rd. It's since been known that there may have been cases in December, not that we were alerted in December.
Does this prove that China did not delay the release of information regarding the virus? No. But even the Chinese doctor that was supposedly silenced and then later died from the virus first posted about the illness on his chat board on December 30th. The United States knew by January 3rd. Claim number two, the virus was created in a lab with bad safety standards and got out.
And Mr. Secretary, have you seen anything that gives you high confidence that it originated in that Wuhan lab?
Martha, there's enormous evidence that that's where this began. We've said from the beginning that this was a virus that originated in Wuhan, China. We took a lot of grief for that from the outset, but I think the whole world can see now. Remember, China has a history of infecting the world, and they have a history of running substandard laboratories. These are not the first times that we've had a world exposed to viruses as a result of failures in a Chinese lab. And so while the intelligence community continues to do its work, they should continue to do that and verify so that we are certain. I can tell you that there is a significant amount of evidence that this came from that laboratory in Wuhan.
Do you believe it was man-made or genetically modified?
Look, the best experts so far seem to think it was man-made. I have no reason to disbelieve that at this point.
So way back on February 19th, 27 public health scientists issued a statement in the Lancet Journal condemning the conspiracy theories. We stand together to strongly condemn conspiracy theories suggesting that COVID-19 does not have a natural origin. Scientists from multiple countries have published and analyzed genomes of the causative agent, severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, and they overwhelmingly conclude that this coronavirus originated in wildlife, as have so many other emerging pathogens. The statement links to 13 different studies and statements, including one from the US CDC and the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. And just last week, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence said, it concurs with the scientific consensus that the virus was not man-made or genetically modified. So what have we learned? I'm definitely not defending China. It is definitely possible that they withheld information early on. But U.S. specialists were alerted to the potential pandemic at an early stage, January 3rd at the latest. It is now May 4th. And as far as I'm concerned, the response to the pandemic in the United States as a whole is sad and lacking. Now, I love a good conspiracy theory as much as anyone, but it seems to me the real controversy is the attempt by the media to distract the public about our own failures with lies and contradictions, and to push the blame to the United States' new favorite enemy, China.